All right, picture this. It's the final seconds of a huge match. The striker is through on goal, it's just them and the keeper. That's pure drama, right? But what's about to happen isn't just luck. It's not just instinct. It's actually a high-speed collision between two different fields of science.
So that gets you thinking, what happens in a perfect world? If a striker hits a flawless, scientifically perfect shot, and the keeper pulls off a perfect, neurologically optimized save, who actually wins? You know, the whole unstoppable force meets the unmovable object thing? Well, what does the science have to say about it? Let's dive in.
So we're going to break this down as the ultimate scientific duel. In one corner, you've got the unstoppable force, the raw physics of the perfect kick, and in the other corner, the immovable object, the incredible neuroscience behind the perfect save.
Okay, let's start with the attacker. Now, you might think a cannon of a shot is all about having a ridiculously strong leg, right? But the science shows it's way more interesting than that. The real secret is getting the entire body to work as one, single, perfectly timed machine.
And the core concept behind that machine is something called the kinetic chain. The easiest way to think about it? Imagine cracking a whip. The energy doesn't just come from your wrist, no way. It starts in your shoulder, flows down your arm, and it's that sequence that makes the tip go supersonic. A powerful kick works exactly the same way.
And this right here shows you the science of that whip crack. Researchers have broken it down into 4 distinct phases. You've got the run-up, the plant, and then the leg cocks back, kind of like pulling back a slingshot to store up all that energy. And then, bam! The downswing unleashes everything into the ball. It's a beautiful scientific sequence. And here's exactly how that energy flows through the body. It literally starts from the ground up. The support leg plants and anchors everything. Then the torso and pelvis twist, coiling up like a spring. The pelvis then acts like a gearbox, shifting all that stored power into the kicking thigh, which then just whips the lower leg and foot right into the ball.
And look, you don't have to take my word for it. The sports biomechanics research is absolutely crystal clear on this. This quote right here confirms it. The better a player is at channeling that energy from their core and support leg through the pelvis, the faster their foot is going to be moving at the moment of impact. Simple as that.
And this chart just visualizes it perfectly. I mean, look at that. You can see the scientific proof right there in the data. There is a direct, positive line. The more energy you transfer from your core, the higher the velocity of your foot. It's basically the scientific signature of an elite shot.
All right, let's switch over to our other duelist and talk about that immovable shield. A world-class save. It isn't just a reflex. It's actually a goalkeeper's brain firing on all cylinders, processing information like a supercomputer. And this whole process happens in, a fraction of a second? It's incredible. First, the eyes get the visual input, the ball leaving the foot. Instantly, the brain is doing complex physics, analyzing speed, spin, and trajectory. And finally, it sends an explosive signal to the muscles telling them where to go. It's just see, process, react.
30%? What on earth could that number mean in a game that's decided by inches and milliseconds?
Well, this is the hidden superpower of the pros. Get this. An elite goalkeeper's brain can process the visual information from a shot up to 30% faster than an amateur's. So they're not just reacting faster, they are literally seeing the future a split second sooner.
And that processing speed is so important because the margins for error are just razor thin. We're talking about a positioning mistake of just 6 inches. That's about the length of your hand. That tiny error can drop a keeper's chance of making the save by 10, even 15%. It's all about precision.
You see, this duel isn't just physical. It's not just happening on the pitch. There is a high-stakes game of psychological chess going on, a game within the game that plays out in the blink of an eye.
And the key here is that both players are constantly trying to read each other's minds. The striker's looking at the keeper's weight, their position, trying to guess which way they'll dive. At the same time, the keeper is analyzing the striker's body language, the angle of their run, where they plant their foot, all these tiny cues to predict where that ball is going before it's even kicked.
So to get that mental edge, keepers are training their brains just as hard as their bodies. They're using visualization to run through saves in their head, mindfulness to block out the noise and improve focus, and even AI-powered brain training games to shave milliseconds off their cognitive reflexes. And this constant battle for every last millisecond has kicked off a kind of scientific arms race. Training methods are evolving at an incredible pace, all to push the absolute limits of what's humanly possible. So on one side, you still have the classic old-school reflex drills that are battle-tested. Things like that drill Manuel Neuer made famous, where he faces away from the play, then has to turn and react instantly. These are all designed to train pure, raw instinct when things get chaotic.
But now you have technology taking all of that to a completely new level. We're talking wearable sensors and gloves and on the body, eye trackers to see exactly what the keeper is looking at, and even full-blown VR simulations that can put them in any game scenario imaginable.
So let's bring it all together. At its core, the perfect goal is a duel between two different sciences. It's the biomechanics of a perfectly executed kinetic chain versus the neuroscience of lightning-fast neural processing. It's the kick versus the brain. And honestly, this quote from the research just nails it. Champions are made in milliseconds. The science shows us that in these critical moments, that tiny fraction of time it takes to react is what separates winning from losing. Which brings us right back to that first question. When you have an unstoppable force of perfect biomechanics meeting an immovable object of perfect neuroscience, what breaks the tie? Well, maybe, just maybe, after all the science is accounted for, the thing that decides the winner is something you can't quite measure. Perhaps it's just the art of the game.